I'm going to suffer and wake up at 5 a.m. to see this lottery because, one, I'm keen for it, and two, I just want to see what we get and how this podcast is going to go next week, because a lot of people are praying for my downfall because no one thinks the Wizards are going to get the number one pick. And, it is realistically unlikely that we will, but I'm going to be very optimistic and say that by next week, you can book it here, take it to the bank. We're going to be getting the number one pick. The Wizards are going to win the draft fucking lottery. You heard it here first. We're winning the draft lottery, and we're going to be getting AJ the Bandstar. I know it. What is going on, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Huddle Within podcast. We've done it. The Wizards have got the first pick of the 2026 NBA draft. What a moment. I did have the luxury of waking up at 5 a.m. to watch this masterpiece. Guys, I am so excited. We obviously came off last week's episode talking about the lottery, thinking that the Wizards are going to get the number one pick. Deep down in my eyes and my thoughts were, we are at more chance of getting a fifth pick and getting screwed over. But it didn't happen. We have landed the number one pick. After missing one ball away from Zion, after missing one ball away from Wemby, and after missing one ball away from getting Cooper Flag, the Wizards have finally done it. We are going to get the number one pick in what people are saying is the deepest draft in 20 bloody years. The Wizards are back, boys. The Wizards are back. Next year, lock up the play-in, lock up the postseason, because we are going to be there. If you look at the East right now, it's so open, and the Wizards are about to close it for the next 4, 5, 6 years if we land on this pick. I am ecstatic. It's a complete contrast to what happened last year where, we had the bottom three lottery odds and we end up getting Cooper Flag, or end up getting the sixth pick instead of Cooper Flag. The Dallas Mavericks rigged their way to getting it. It didn't happen today. The team that had the worst odds finally got rewarded with the first pick. It's the first time that's happened in this new lottery reform. And now that they're going to be changing the lottery odds in about a few years, the Wizards, I'm hoping, will not need to worry about it, because now, surely, after 3 years of tanking, which I bought into, which I was happy that was done because the front office, scrapped everything, we're going to compete now. And like I mentioned, I was there for the ride. For those 3 years, looking at, loss after loss after loss after loss, after Bam 83 points, after 16 losing streak, after multiple times where we just tanked and just sat out our players. It has finally been rewarded. And, man, I got to give credit to Michael Winger, Will Dawkins, and Travis Schlenk there in the Wizards front office organization. They have been immense. Bringing in a number one pick to add in with Trae Young, with Anthony Davis, with Keyshawn George, with Trey Johnson, with Will Riley, with Alex Sarr, with Bob Carrington. Oh, my God. And if anyone I've missed, I'm sorry. Trey Johnson as well, if I've said you twice, you're getting another mention. We are on. Seriously on. And, yeah, I'm super excited, guys. Like, the Wizards are finally going to be relevant in basketball again. You'd think, after naming all those players, it would be the most Wizards thing to do to just sort of shit the bed here. But I really don't see that. I see how open the East is. I see the opportunity of getting a number one pick, and I see the path ahead, and I'm extremely excited. So I'll take you back to the draft lottery. Obviously, I woke up for that, and I started getting really, really nervous when the Memphis Grizzlies and the Chicago Bulls were going to be locked in for a top 4 pick. The Kings moved down to 7th. The Nets moved down to 6th. The Dallas Mavericks picked at 9, which is where Chicago was supposed to be. And I got nervous. It was down to us or the Indiana Pacers to get that 5th pick. And when I saw that Clippers logo, I was in full disbelief and relief. And I'll get to why the Clippers logo was there, not the Pacers. I'm sure everyone knows now, but I want to talk about it. And that led to commercial break. Commercial break, I'm sitting there excited, thinking that we are most likely going to get one of the 4 players that are undoubtedly the best 4 players in the draft class. They're the upper tier. AJ Debansa, Darren Peterson, Cam Boozer, and Caleb Boozer. They were all in that echelon of top 4. So I was excited nevertheless. I was honestly just glad that we didn't get the 5th pick, because if we got the 5th pick, it would have been a disaster. It would have been a shame. Maybe we would have got someone like Acuff, but, let's be honest. We tanked for a top 4 pick. we wanted the top 4 pick and we got halfway there. So after commercial break, we get there. I hear the Bulls. I see the Bulls card. Bulls get announced the 4th pick. I'm getting more excited because, we're getting really close to that first pick, Memphis gets called out. And then I'm like, no way. We could actually land this. Will the Utah Jazz get it? Will I be too disappointed? If I'm honest, no. I wouldn't have been majorly disappointed with the number 2 pick, if I'm honest. But just to be able to just see the Utah Jazz card come out and the Wizards winning a draft lottery, the first time in 2010, only fitting that John Wall was the one representing us there. And it just was perfect. Like, it was more than just getting the number 1 pick. It was actually winning something. It felt like we've won something for once. This was an opportunity that hasn't happened in 26 years for this franchise. We get the number 1 pick, and we've got flexibility now. We can decide whatever we want to do with that. Now, initially, I really want AJ Depensah. AJ Depensah is the player that I want, and I believe that AJ Depensah is the guy that we should be getting. I mentioned this last week, and I'm going to stick by that. We should be drafting AJ Depensah. His flexibility, his upside, he's just going to be a very special player, and I think he's going to fit really well with the current roster. However, I'm not closed on, I'm very open, actually, on potentially trading down or picking down to get a better return. If the Utah Jazz want their boy AJ Depensah, high school in Utah, college in Utah, they're going to have to give us a big haul for that. So if they want to give us 3 first-rounders, a potential star, and that allows us to move down to 2, I'm not going to hate it too much. I obviously do want AJ Depensah. I don't think we should play around with it because we have the first pick. But the reason why winning the draft lottery is so good is because we have the flexibility. And I really like the idea of Michael Winger nudging GMs and saying that we are open to trading it. That's what you want to do as a front office. You want to put the bait out there so GMs can sniff at it and see what they can provide us, because, there's a massive opportunity here for us to, have some flexibility. Again, I wouldn't do it. I would stay with AJ Depensah. But if we're dropping down, as long as it's lower than 4, not lower than 4, higher than 4, I'm happy. But I'm happy regardless. Got my Wizards top here. You guys remember literally last year when I was ranting and crashing out on Cooper Flag, and now it's been a full 180. I am extremely, extremely happy and really excited to see where the Wizards organization goes. If we're going to win finals and future championships, I'm ecstatic. I haven't been this ecstatic since we were an Eastern Conference final contender, 1 game away. John Wall getting the game winner in Game 6 to force Game 7. That's the last time I've really been excited about this team and seeing sort of, like, honestly, really, really good things. So, I can't get the smile off my face. Like, it's been an incredible day. I've been nonstop smiling. I've been nonstop happy. I've been messaging everyone. And, I feel like we definitely deserve it. Like, you can call us out on the unethical tanking, but we're not going to do that anymore now. I don't think we'll do that. I think we're going to go all in next season and really show, everyone what Washington basketball is all about. And yeah, I can't wait. And then in some other news, obviously, we had New York winning their 4th game, sweeping Philadelphia. Quite embarrassing from Philly, especially given that the New York fans all traveled there. And B told them not to sell the tickets, but it definitely looked like they were willing to sell them. And, the New York Knicks fans were packing the building, doing some crazy shit online. But in all seriousness, this New York team is very, very solid, and they look like they're going to go to the NBA championship. I just don't see anyone getting close to them. They just look really, really good. And, I kind of really want them to win. I think it'd be really funny if they did. And even if they go to the NBA finals, I think it's a massive achievement for them. But the East is most definitely open for the New York Knicks as they, defeat Philly. And look, Philly, man, they still haven't made a conference final despite having Embiid. It looks like he might be out the door the way he was speaking after the press conference. So that's going to be something to look out for, I would say. But otherwise, the New York Knicks, good on them. They go on to potentially going to the Eastern Conference Finals and winning it. They're in probably the best position to win it at the moment, especially if we see this Cleveland and Detroit game go to 7. They'll give the New York Knicks a lot of rest and opportunity to sort of get ready for the next game. But otherwise, you have the Timberwolves defeating the San Antonio Spurs. We had Wemby getting a flagrant 2 with a very dirty, it was an extremely dirty elbow to Naz Reid. I don't think he'll get suspended given his sort of status in the league, but that is a very suspensionable sort of case. Like, it was a really disgusting sort of act from him to elbow Naz Reid like that. And I'm glad they ejected him. I think it was the right decision. But the Spurs kept it real close, and that gives me a little bit of worry signs for Minnesota. However, they do take this series 2-2, so all they have to do is get that road win and potentially get a six closeout game at home. Where I've predicted the Minnesota Timberwolves to get out of this series, and I think they're going to have a lot of confidence now getting out of that matchup going 2-2. And they're more experienced, but the Spurs have looked really good. And look, I got to say, the way the series has gone, this is my before matchup prediction. I did say Wolves in 6. I'm going to stick by it. But at the moment, Spurs are looking a lot more dominant, and I think the better team at the moment, especially considering that without Wemby, they were really close to getting this one out as well. So, I mean, it's a good series. It's good to see. I'm really excited for it. Because, there's another series in the West that's not doing too good, and that's the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Lakers, where, look, it looks like the OKC is going to sweep the Lakers. I really hope they don't. I've got OKC in 5, but it's looking to be that case. And then you also have Cleveland and Detroit going to game 6, which is also really exciting. I've got Cleveland in 6 there. I think they are the better team on paper with more experience, but Detroit are a really good outfit as well. So, let's see how that goes as well, because that one is, a bit of an interesting one when it comes to playoffs. But playoffs have ramped up. We obviously have the NBA draft, which I've spoken about. So, that happens in a month and a half. We're really close to ending there. We're kind of close to getting and seeing who's going to win the championship. I still have OKC as a lock for me. But, some teams like the Knicks and Spurs can be very surprising and can disrupt this. You never know. Just wanted to take a moment to thank you guys for tuning into another episode of the Huddle Within podcast. If you do enjoy episodes like this, or this episode specifically, be sure to leave a comment and a 5-star review wherever you do get your podcasts. It'd be also great if you could like and subscribe wherever you do get your podcasts, so we can continue to show this out to people that see sports exactly the way that you do. But without further ado, let's get straight back into it. So moving on to the Premier League, Arsenal get a much-needed 1-0 victory in a call where, look, I'm going to say it, I think Raya was definitely fouled. You can't grab the keeper's arm like that. I know there's a lot of contact across other players in the box, but I think that always happens to on-field players. The goalkeeper was impeded 100%. I don't have any arguments for it, to be honest. I think it was the right decision. I think it was a very ballsy decision for the referee to go and look at it. It did take too long, though, and that's what frustrates me about VAR, because it's just that, man, 5 minutes to just look at a decision just kills the game. It's just like, make a decision already. The more time you spend looking at it, the more you're looking for something to sort of overturn it. And, it doesn't help that the fact that Arsenal are competing for a title feels like that was given to them. But I will safely say that was a foul, and it was the right call. West Ham should have probably drawn the game or won. You had a really big Fernandez chance in the 78th minute, but it was Trossard who ended up getting the goal to sort of get them the victory. And now they have 2 games left. They've got Burnley at home and Crystal Palace away. With a Champions League final, you can pretty much say that they are going to potentially win the league. And, City get a 3-0 victory, but it doesn't look to be enough there. But we got Crystal Palace in the final of the Conference League, Aston Villa in the final of the Conference League as well, Europa League. And that leaves, if Aston Villa win the Europa League, the 6th position open for Champions League. And right now, it looks like Bournemouth could be winning the Champions League or qualifying for the Champions League. Could you imagine Bournemouth at the Vitality Stadium with 10,000 fans hosting Messi? Hosting Messi. Could you imagine the Vitality Stadium with 10,000 fans owning Bayern Munich, PSG, Barcelona, Real Madrid? It would be incredible scenes, I reckon, if Bournemouth were able to potentially get Champions League football. But otherwise, you can pretty much wrap up sort of the top 5 at the moment. I think Liverpool stay 4th. United have claimed 3rd, and Aston Villa have claimed 5th. It's only a question as to whether Aston Villa win the Europa League or not, and I'm sure they will really want to win that, especially given that they have probably the coach that's won the most Europa Leagues. This will be his 4th win if he does it. So, massive potential achievement for Unai Emery to get another Europa League trophy under his belt. And also for Crystal Palace to get a Conference League trophy, which will be 2 trophies in 2 years for them. And I'm sure they'll be really ecstatic. It won't really matter where they're sort of placed in the league. They'll set them up nicely for next season as well. But, you got Arsenal and PSG in the Champions League final, still a few weeks away. So I guess when we get closer to that, we'll talk about it. But it looks like PSG are heavy favourites. But I wouldn't be surprised if Arsenal can sneak a 1-0 there and get the victory.
Just wanted to take a moment to thank you guys for tuning into another episode of the Huddle Within podcast. If you do enjoy episodes like this, or this episode specifically, be sure to leave a comment and a 5-star review wherever you do get your podcasts. It'd be also great if you could like and subscribe wherever you do get your podcasts, so we can continue to show this out to people that see sports exactly the way that you do. But without further ado, let's get straight back into it.
I'm going to start with the Pies because I was at that game. And, mate, that was an embarrassing display from us. We got smacked, absolutely smacked by 54 points against Geelong, who, they're a very good outfit. But just seeing Ollie Henry kick 4, Sean Manor kick 3, it's just so frustrating. Like, the kicking and hoping stuff is ridiculous. The energy levels are low, and I just not happy. Not happy with the performance. And I'm not confident going into Sydney's game. The only thing I can really look forward to is Pendle's, breaking the all-time games record, which he's going to do in 2 weeks against West Coast. That is going to be really exciting, and I'm really obviously looking forward to that and the potential that has for, AFL. Like, having someone that's broken the games record, being a Collingwood sort of player is special. And, I can safely say that Pendles is the greatest Collingwood player of all time, and he's solidifying that with this sort of record. So I'm excited for that. But the performance wasn't good on the weekend, and it's really hard for me to go past that because it just shows that we're really, really far behind. And I think next year we really need to look into bring some big free agents, especially with the war chest we've got. Ben King, get him on. Try even get Butters for all I care. I think we just really need to sort of tool here, because a lot of the picks that we've sort of busted on. I think they just haven't been good enough. They haven't conveyed to something significant that has really helped us besides our father and son ones. Like, you look at Brisbane, they get players like Logan Morris, Murphy Reed for Freo. They are already just making impacts on this team, and Collingwood haven't had those players at the moment. Speaking of Freo, they get their win against Hawks. They've just now finding ways to win, which is really exciting for them. I think they are in the best position to claim a top 4 spot. Brisbane against Carlton. It looks like it was a close game, but the first half basically put it to bed because Carlton didn't get near it. But they sort of like changed the way they played, because usually they have really good first halves and terrible second halves. They managed to flip that against Brisbane, but, nevertheless, a terrible result for them. Another loss, and, they're just rubbish. Port Adelaide and Doggies. Doggies getting the victory by 2 points. A much needed win for them. They'll give them confidence going into next week. Despite all the injuries, it was good to get an away win there. They're pretty good at Adelaide Oval, aren't they? And then North and Sydney, also North putting up a really good fight, 8 points in the end. Sydney getting the much needed victory, and North Melbourne can hold their heads up high because they were able to compete, and that's something that I think North Melbourne fans really want. If they don't want to get smacked, they at least want to compete and think that they have a chance of winning. So they did their job there. I have the Giants and Bombers, another lower team that competed really well. They only lost by 14, and I think the Bombers will be really happy about how they performed. The Giants will be relieved and glad they got the victory there. Gold Coast and St Kilda. Gold Coast proving too good there. 29-point victory at Gold Coast's ground. It's really hard to beat teams there. And then Melbourne and West Coast. I think Melbourne were on cruise mode. They get the victory. And then Adelaide defeating Richmond as well. Another cruise mode victory for Adelaide, as Richmond and West Coast are just really shit at the moment. But we'll go on to the tips for this week. We have a grand final rematch between Brisbane and Geelong, where I think Brisbane will get the victory. They're playing at the Gabba. I feel like they'll get up by 3 goals. Sydney and Collingwood, this one's going to be a obliteration from the Swans, especially the fact that we're playing in Sydney, and we've also told Pendles to just get ready for next week in his games record. And, I'm really excited for that, but not excited for this week. Gold Coast and Port Adelaide. I think Gold Coast get the victory here. We've got Adelaide and North Melbourne. I think Crows win. It's at Adelaide's ground, so that should be an easy one for them. Hawthorn and Melbourne is going to be a really fun game. I do think Hawthorn gets the victory and bounces back. I do think they are the stronger team of the two, but I really hope Melbourne can compete here, because then it will just show that they're actually pretty much up there. These are the two best Melbourne teams right now. So I really hope it's a good game, to be honest. And I hope that Melbourne can actually get the victory, because I think I'm really happy with what Melbourne are doing at the moment, and I think it'd be very good for the confidence. Carlton Bulldogs, doggies will win this one. I think, Carlton are just not good enough, eh? And then you've got Essendon and Fremantle. Fremantle should win. It's at Marvel, but I expect Freo to get the victory here. Essendon are just not strong enough. St Kilda, Richmond, give me St Kilda. West Coast and GWS. I would go for GWS by default, but this is a chance for West Coast, I think, to get a win here. I think there is a big opportunity for potentially West Coast to get a victory. So for West Coast's sake, I'm hoping that they can do it. I doubt that they will, but, this is a chance for them to get right and potentially win something. But those are the quick tips that I have for the AFL. Again, I am not going to be able to go to the game between Collingwood and West Coast, I don't think. But I really want to see that Pendles game record, and I think we'll be obviously addressing that as we get closer to it for sure. And then we go to Backlash, and yeah, I am, all my excitement and energy level went from the start of the podcast with the Wizards getting the number 1 pick, but Backlash is really good too. A solid PLE, nothing too crazy. They introduced this John Cena challenge that's going to happen every year where the fans get to vote for who they think is the champ. I am not a big fan of it. And you know what? TKO is really starting to piss me off, I have to say, because they are just doing these money grab sort of promotions to try to keep the product relevant when the product is disgusting at the moment. And this was another just terrible example of just trying to put something in that's no one's really asked for. Like, give us the champions we want. Don't force us to give us like an encouragement award champion. And, John Cena promoting this, like, makes it sound better than what it was, but like, not a fan at all. And, again, I mention this every week. I do have my own main event WWE podcast review every single week. So again, if you do love WWE content, be sure to check that out. I post every sort of Monday night there onto the WWE podcast. I record, and the WWE podcast, Matt, who owns it and has his own, obviously, reviews and stuff, which is really good. You can check that out as well. Post it on his podcast. And, I've been helping that out for a little over a year now, and I really enjoy doing that. So if you do want more sort of WWE talk, that's where you can find it. And that's where I'll probably talk more about this stupid John Cena challenge or championship challenge cut, whatever it's called. It's just, yeah, it's terrible. But the matches weren't. We had a really good match between Bron Breakker and Seth Rollins. That went longer than what I thought. We had the obvious sort of interference from the Vision. And Bron Breakker ended up getting the victory as Seth Rollins tried to go for a super stomp and met Bron Breakker with a spear, and he got the victory there. And obviously, it's looking like Seth Rollins was protected because the Vision got involved. But at the same time, I think this is a big victory for Bron Breakker. And then we had the second match between Trick Williams and Sami Zayn. We had Lil Yachty getting hit with a haluva kick, which looked pretty brutal. Got hit to the back of the head. We had some pongo sticks getting hit, but it ended up being Trick Williams getting the victory with the trick shot. And it was well deserved. I think this is a really good move. It sort of leans more into Sami Zayn continuing to be a heel because that authentically happened, and Trick Williams continuing to get nuclear heat and just remain the US champion, where I really hope he goes up against Carmelo Hayes. I think we're looking for that rivalry. I think we really want to see that happen. I think it's worth it. But we'll have to wait and see with what happens there. Now we get Danhausen and his mystery opponent taking on The Miz and Kit Wilson. Now, a lot of people are pretty upset because they thought it was going to be someone special, and obviously WWE love to hype things up. But I kind of like this because it is typical Danhausen. He's so funny. Like, I really like him on here. He's just doing an excellent job, and he's extremely over. Again, I wasn't happy that he first got announced, but, he's taken the world by storm now. But him just failing an experiment, hoping to get a clone of himself, ends up getting a miniature version who was El Torino, who, if you don't know who that is, he's a legendary luchador. He's small, but he's extremely amazing in ring. And, he came out dressed up as Minihausen, and they went on and defeated The Miz and Kit Wilson. Obviously, the El Torino did all the work, but it was just funny that Danhausen came in and got the victory there. And again, well deserved. Great match, a great display, and, just a bit of comedic fun. And the fact that Danhausen is getting a Backlash match just shows how good he's doing, because there was only 5 matches and he was selected in one of them. So give credit to where it's due for Danhausen there. And then we had the women's feud, Asuka and Kairi Sane. Oh, Kairi Sane, excuse me. Kairi Sane was getting chance though, because they wanted her back, but it was actually Io Sky taking on Asuka, with Io Sky getting the victory. And the way it sort of ended was Asuka tried to miss Io Sky, but Io Sky blocked it with sort of a folder. That led to them getting a fair match in ring. She hit the bullet train, Meteora, then the sort of over-the-top moonsault to get the victory against Asuka. And the best part about it was that Asuka was very emotional at the end. A lot of people are sort of suspecting that she might quit or she might retire. But I really think it was just a really emotional moment for Asuka to be able to take on Io Sky in ring. And, those two delivered really well. And I was still shattered that this match wasn't at WrestleMania, because I feel like this match deserved to be there. It would have been an unbelievable display. I think they would have done a better job at WrestleMania, and the crowd would have bloody loved it, like the 60,000 that were there. But, we're still sort of gifted to see this, a very good wrestling display. Two women that are extremely, extremely good in ring as well. And then we ended up with the main event, which was Roman Reigns taking on Fatu. We all knew that Roman Reigns was going to win this. It was only a matter of how, and it was through, Roman Reigns getting hit with the Tongan death clip by Jacob Fatu, and Roman Reigns trying to get the ref involved, trying to block him away, trying to get the ref attacked. A bit of heel moves for Roman, a bit of a survival technique, and then that led to Roman obviously untucking the buckle, leaving the obviously the buckle open. That allowed for Roman Reigns to hit Fatu in the head and then the spear, and then got the victory there. But what happened after was probably the more interesting part, and that was Jacob Fatu continuing to attack Roman Reigns, just showing the fact that he's unhinged and unstopped, and he's still going to go for that World Heavyweight Champion there. So that was a really good power play and move from Fatu. And, it looked like that Roman was cheating. So I think that it was justified as to why Jacob Fatu retaliated in the way he did, and it keeps the story going, which is really good. But again, guys, that has been pretty much your episode of The Huddle Within, started by and all my energy was like all gone to that. Like, I'm still thinking about how the fuck we got that #1 pick, and I'm so happy about it. But again, if you did enjoy the content, if you enjoyed the energy, if you're happy with the Wizards getting that #1 pick, if you're a Wizard fan jumping onto this now, just put something in the comments, subscribe, whether you do get your podcast as well. If you could leave a review, it'd also be really appreciated as well. So with that said, I will leave you guys to it, and I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Cheers.
So that's a wrap for this week's episode of the Huddle Within podcast. I appreciate you for tuning in and being part of this community where we go beyond the game and into what really matters. If this episode resonated with you, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who sees sports just the way that we do. And hey, I'd love to hear from you. Connect with me on my social medias, which will be linked below. Send in your thoughts and even be part of a future episode. Until next time, keep that passion alive, stay in the huddle, and remember, it's always deeper than the game. Cheers.